Welcome to Mother's Revenge, where heartfelt stories touch your soul and may even bring you to tears. I was sleeping in the bed of my Chevy Silverado when Officer Ramirez knocked on my window at 2:00 a.m. The sound jolted me awake, and for a second I forgot where I was. The Walmart parking lot. Tuesday night, or was it Wednesday morning now? When you are homeless, the days blur together like watercolors in the rain. "License and registration," he said, shining his flashlight through the fogged glass. I could see my breath in the cold Nevada desert air as I fumbled for my wallet. My back ached from sleeping on the metal truck bed with just a sleeping bag and an old moving blanket for comfort. This was my life now at 49. Mark Ellison, former successful business owner, reduced to dodging police and parking violations. I handed over my documents, thinking it was just another ticket I could not afford to pay. The third one this week, maybe the fourth. Officer Ramirez looked young, maybe 35, with kind eyes that seemed apologetic about waking me. He walked back to his patrol car, and I watched him in my side mirror typing on his computer. Standard procedure. I had been through this dance before, but something changed. I saw him lean forward, squinting at his screen. He typed something else, waited, then suddenly stood up straight. Even from 50 feet away, I could see his whole demeanor shift. He spoke into his radio, quick and urgent. Then he walked back to my truck, but this time his hand rested on his weapon. "Mr. Ellison, I need you to step out of the vehicle slowly," he said. His voice was different now. "Careful alert. Keep your hands where I can see them." My heart started racing. "Officer, what is wrong? It is just a parking violation. I will move the truck right now. Sir, please step out of the vehicle." His flashlight was not aimed at my face anymore. It was aimed at my chest, tracking my every movement. I climbed out, my joints stiff from the cold hands raised slightly. "What is going on?" Officer Ramirez looked at me with an expression I will never forget. It was fear mixed with confusion, like he had stumbled onto something way above his pay grade. "Mr. Ellison, when I ran your license, something came up. There is a federal flag on your file from 1987. 1987. That is 32 years ago. I was 17 years old. He showed me his patrol car's computer screen, turning it so I could see. There it was in red letters that seemed to pulse with urgency. Federal flag. Homeland Security update applied when the department was created. Original file date August 15th, 1987. Homeland Security wants your exact location," he continued. "They are sending someone now. Sir, I need you to sit on the curb and not move." My hands started trembling as I stared at that screen. The date suddenly clicked in my memory. August 15th, 1987, the day my Uncle Frank died in that car accident. The same uncle who had left me his old Ford Ranger, the truck I had used to start my landscaping business. But Uncle Frank had been secretive about his work, always deflecting questions with jokes about government pencil pushing. As I sat on that cold curb watching Officer Ramirez pace nervously while we waited for whoever was coming, one thought consumed me. What had Uncle Frank been involved in? And more importantly, why had my ex-in-law Gordon Blake seemed so satisfied when he learned about my connection to Frank at a family dinner years ago? "Frank Ellison's nephew," he had muttered to his son Ethan when he thought I was not listening. That explains everything. 20 minutes later, a black Suburban with government plates pulled into the parking lot. No sirens, no dramatic entrance, just the quiet arrival of something serious. Agent Deborah Sinclair stepped out, her badge reflecting the streetlight as she approached. She was all business in her dark suit, even at 2:00 in the morning. "Mark Ellison?" she asked, though she clearly already knew the answer. "Son of Leonard Ellison, nephew of Frank Ellison." "Yes, ma'am." She studied me for a moment. This middle-aged man in rumpled clothes who had been sleeping in his truck, and something in her expression softened slightly. "Mr. Ellison, We have been looking for you for a very long time. Your uncle left something behind before he died, something of national importance, and I believe the reason you are sleeping in this parking lot instead of your home has everything to do with what he discovered 39 years ago." She pulled out a tablet, swiped through several screens, and showed me a photograph. It was my Uncle Frank in military uniform, standing next to men I did not recognize, but in the background, barely visible, but definitely there was a much younger Gordon Blake. "Your former father-in-law is not just a retired banker, Mr. Ellison, and your uncle did not die in an accident. The flag on your file was put there to protect you, to alert us if anyone ever tried to destroy your life the way they destroyed his. It appears the protection is 39 years late, but it is here now. My whole body went cold, and it was not from the desert night air. Everything made sense now. Gordon's immediate hostility when he learned who my uncle was, his systematic destruction of my business, his determination to separate me from his daughter. He had not been protecting his family's social status. He had been protecting a secret that my Uncle Frank had died trying to expose." Mr. Ellison, Agent Deborah Sinclair said, helping me to my feet. "We need to talk about what really happened in 1987, and why Gordon Blake has spent the last year making sure you ended up with nothing and no one to turn to. He thought if he destroyed you, completely broke you down enough, you would never discover what your uncle left behind. He was wrong. 6 months earlier, I was living the American dream, or so I thought. My landscaping company, Silver Creek Landscapes, had 14 employees and contracts with half the commercial properties in Reno. I had built it from nothing, starting with just a push mower and an old Ford Ranger when I was 29. 20 years of 16-hour days working through 100-degree summers and freezing desert winters had finally paid off. I had a reputation as the most reliable landscaper in the city, the guy who showed up when he said he would and delivered quality every single time. Linda and I had been married for 26 years. We had raised 2 beautiful kids in our 4-bedroom house in Silver Ridge, complete with the white stucco walls and red tile roof that screamed successful middle-class Nevada family. Jason was 23, finishing his business degree at Nevada State University, and Megan was 20 in her second year of nursing school. They were good kids, smart and hardworking, everything a father could want. But there was always tension with Linda's family. From day one, Gordon Blake made it clear I was not what he had envisioned for his only daughter. A landscaper, he had said when Linda first introduced me at their country club. He had looked at my calloused hands when we shook, and I saw him mentally calculating my worth and finding me lacking. How interesting. Gordon was old Henderson money, the kind of man who wore golf shirts that cost more than my workers made in a day. He had been senior vice president at Western Trust Bank for 30 years, moving money around like chess pieces, while guys like me moved earth and planted trees. His wife Diana was worse in her own way, with her fake smile and constant reminders of what Linda could have had. Dr. Brennan's son had just bought a house in Summerlin Hills, Diana would say at family dinners, passing the asparagus with practiced elegance. 8,000 square feet. His cardiology practice is doing so well. Remember when he took you to prom? Linda, I had learned to tune it out over the years, focusing on cutting my steak while Gordon launched into his weekly lecture about investment portfolios and market predictions. Ethan, Linda's younger brother, would smirk from across the table enjoying the show. He had inherited his father's arrogance along with his real estate development company, another gift that fell into his lap without a single blister or drop of sweat. Dad built something from nothing, Jason would say, defending me with the fierce loyalty of a son who had spent summers working on my crews. He employs 14 people. He is a job creator. Anyone can cut grass. Jason Gordon would reply, swirling his wine. It takes vision to build real wealth. Your father works in his business, not on it. There is a ceiling to how far manual labor can take a man. But I had my pride. Every commercial property I maintained, every perfectly manicured lawn and precisely trimmed hedge represented something I had earned with my own 2 hands. No inheritance, No family connections, no good old boy network. Just Mark Ellison and his willingness to outwork everyone else. Linda used to defend me, too, at least in the early years. "Mark is a good man, Daddy," she would say. "He takes care of his family." Is that not what matters? There is taking care of a family, and then there is providing the life they deserve. Gordon would answer, his gray eyes cold as January. "You could have had so much more, sweetheart." The strange thing was, our life was good. We took vacations to Long Beach every summer, had 2 reliable cars in the garage, and never worried about paying bills. I coached Jason's Little League team for 10 years and never missed one of Megan's dance recitals. We had friends' barbecues on weekends, date nights at local restaurants where the owners knew our names. It was a real life, a solid life built on honest work. But Gordon had planted seeds of doubt in Linda's mind, watering them with constant comments about what she was missing. Every family gathering became an exercise in subtle humiliation. He would introduce me to his golf buddies as Linda's husband. He does lawn work the same way you would mention someone had a drinking problem. Diana would seat me at the far end of the table during holiday dinners, physically placing me on the periphery of their family. The last normal day of my life was a Thursday in March. I had just landed a contract to maintain the grounds at a new medical complex, my biggest deal ever. I came home with champagne ready to celebrate. Instead, I found Linda sitting at our kitchen table with her parents' papers spread out in front of her. Gordon looked up at me with something I had never seen in his eyes before. Victory. Mark, Linda said, her voice strange and formal. "We need to talk about our future." Everything started unraveling the day Gordon retired from his position as senior vice president at Western Trust Bank. It was supposed to be a celebration, his golden years finally beginning after 4 decades of moving money through the desert economy, but retirement gave him something dangerous. Time and purpose focused entirely on fixing his daughter's life. He began showing up at Linda's real estate office every morning with coffee and poison. "You are 49 years old, living beneath your potential," he would tell her while reviewing her listings. "Look at these properties you are showing. Starter homes and rental units. You should be selling estates in Summerlin Hills, not 3 bedrooms in Sparks." The sabotage started subtly. First, Ethan called me into his downtown Las Vegas office. He owned 7 strip malls across the valley, and Silver Creek Landscapes maintained all of them. It was 30% of my annual revenue. Steady money I could count on. "Mark, nothing personal," he said, not meeting my eyes as he slid the termination notice across his glass desk. "Found a company that can do it for 20% less. You understand? It is just business. 20% less." I stood up, knowing exactly what this was about. "Ethan, we have worked together for 8 years. My guys know every sprinkler head on your properties." "Decision is made," he said, already checking his phone. "They start Monday." I lost $360,000 in annual contracts in one conversation, but that was just the opening move. Gordon's banking connections ran deep, and within 2 weeks my business line of credit was frozen for routine review. Western Trust Bank had been my lender for 15 years. Never missed a payment. Perfect record. I do not understand. I told the branch manager. "I have got payroll due Friday. These reviews are standard procedure, Mr. Ellison. Should be resolved in 4 to 6 weeks. 4 to 6 weeks. I had 14 employees depending on paychecks, families to feed. I emptied my personal savings to cover 2 payrolls, maxed out credit cards for the 3rd. But by week 4, I had to start letting people go. Carlos, I am so sorry, I told my foreman who had been with me 8 years. As soon as this banking mess gets sorted, you are my first call." "It is not your fault, boss," he said, but I saw the worry in his eyes. He had 3 kids and a mortgage. Meanwhile, Gordon was working on Linda with surgical precision. He would bring by real estate listings for million-dollar homes, casually mentioning how her friend Jennifer had just married a commercial developer. Remember Nathan Walcott from the country club? He would say his construction company just got the airport expansion contract. He asked about you the other day, recently divorced, you know? Linda started coming home later, skipping dinners, avoiding conversations. She had stopped wearing her wedding ring, claiming it interfered with her typing. When I confronted her about it, she turned cold. "Maybe Daddy is right," she said. "I have been thinking about this for years, Mark. You are a good man, but you will never be good enough for this family. Look at our friends. Look at their lives. We are stuck in the same place we were 10 years ago. Stuck. We are raising 2 great kids. We own our home. We take vacations. What more do you want?" "More," she said simply. "I want more." The divorce papers were filed 2 weeks later. The prenup Gordon had insisted on before our wedding was ironclad. He had paid for the lawyer back then, told me it was just smart business to protect both parties. Now I understood it was a trap set 26 years ago waiting to spring. Without the business income and with my credit frozen, I could not afford a decent lawyer. Linda got the house, both cars, and primary custody. I got 72 hours to move out and supervised visitation rights that Gordon's lawyer friend made sure were humiliating in their restrictions. "Dad, why can you not just come home?" Megan asked during one of our coffee shop visits. Linda waiting in the car outside. "It is complicated, sweetheart. Your mom and I just need some space." But Gordon was not done. He made sure every commercial property owner in his network knew that Silver Creek Landscapes was unreliable and having financial difficulties. My remaining contracts evaporated. Within 4 months, I went from successful business owner to sleeping in my truck, showering at the YMCA, and moving between parking lots to avoid police attention. The final humiliation came when I confronted Gordon outside his country club. "You did this," I said. "You destroyed my life." He did not even pretend to deny it. "I told you 26 years ago you would never be good enough for my daughter. Some men are meant to rise, Mark. Others are meant to maintain their lawns. You should have stayed in your place. My place? I built a business. I raised a family." "You played in dirt," he said, adjusting his golf glove. "And now you are back where you belong, in the gutter." That night, in the Walmart parking lot when Officer Ramirez ran my license, I expected another ticket I could not pay, maybe even jail time for the accumulated fines. I was ready to give up entirely. 3 weeks earlier, I sat in my truck with my father's old revolver in my lap, wondering if everyone would be better off without me. The only thing that stopped me was thinking about Jason and Megan finding out their father had quit on them. Everything that followed the flag, the call, and Agent Sinclair's arrival unfolded exactly as I already described. It showed a young Gordon Blake, probably 30 years old, shaking hands with a man Agent Sinclair identified as Dmitry Volkov, a known Soviet intelligence officer. In the background, Harold Blake watched approvingly. Another photo showed Gordon at a banking conference in Dallas, exchanging briefcases with the same man. Gordon was not just protecting his father's reputation, Agent Sinclair explained. He was an active participant. When his father retired, Gordon took over the network, modernizing it for the post-Soviet era. They shifted from espionage to money laundering for Russian oligarchs. The journal contained my uncle's handwritten notes, detailed observations of the Blake family's activities. One entry from July 1987 stood out. "They know I am on to them. Harold Blake called my commanding officer trying to get me transferred. I have made copies of everything. If something happens to me, my nephew Mark will inherit more than just my truck. The truth has a way of surfacing even if it takes decades. We need to move fast." Agent Sinclair said already on her phone, "If Gordon destroyed your life this systematically, he is still protecting active operations." Within 4 hours, federal agents had warrants for Gordon's home's offices and bank records. I watched from Agent Sinclair's vehicle as they raided his Henderson mansion. Gordon was led out in handcuffs, his face a mask of shock and rage. When he saw me, his expression shifted to pure hatred. "You knew," he shouted as they put him in the federal vehicle. "You have always known." "No, Gordon. I called back. I did not know anything. You destroyed my life because of your paranoia. You created your own downfall. The investigation exploded from there. Ethan's real estate empire was built on laundered money. Western Trust Bank's executive board was compromised. 40 years of financial crimes unraveled in weeks. The federal government found over $350 million in hidden accounts properties purchased with illegal funds and a network that stretched from Las Vegas to Moscow. My phone rang as we watched the FBI carry boxes from Gordon's house. It was Jason. Dad, what is happening? Mom is hysterical. Federal agents are at Grandpa's house. The news is saying something about Russian money laundering. They are saying you are involved somehow. I am not involved the way they think, son. Your grandfather has been hiding something terrible for 40 years. He destroyed our family to protect his crimes. Mom wants to talk to you, Jason said. I heard muffled voices. Then Linda came on the line. Mark, I did not know. I swear to God I did not know. My father told me you were holding me back, that you were beneath us. But it was all lies. Was it not? He was terrified of you. Not of me, Linda. Of the truth my uncle left behind. She was crying now. The kind of deep, shaking sobs I had only heard once before when her mother had cancer. I threw away our marriage for a lie. I let him poison me against you. Mark, our whole life was real, and I destroyed it for his approval. Agent Sinclair tapped my shoulder, showing me her tablet. The government had just frozen over $60 million in Blake family assets. My father-in-law's empire, built on blood and betrayal, had collapsed in a single day. Gordon Blake was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison for financial crimes spanning 4 decades. The judge called it one of the most extensive money laundering operations ever uncovered in Nevada. Ethan got 6 years and lost his real estate licenses in 7 states. Diana, cleared of direct involvement, but devastated by the shame, moved to Vermont to live with her sister. She never spoke to me again, not even to apologize. Western Trust Bank faced federal oversight and paid $100 million in fines for institutional failures. 25 executives were indicted. The scandal made national news for weeks, with reporters calling it the Blake Network and tracing connections to Russian oligarchs who had been using the American Southwest as their personal washing machine for dirty money. The government's witness protection program offered me a substantial reward for the recovered documents, $5 million plus another $1.2 million from the seized assets as restitution for the deliberate destruction of my business. It was not about the money, though, that certainly helped. It was about vindication. Every person who had watched Gordon humiliate me at those country club dinners now knew the truth. The man who had called me dirt under his fingernails was heading to federal prison in shackles. I used the reward money to rebuild Silver Creek landscapes. But this time I did it right. I hired back Carlos and my old crew, giving them equity stakes in the company. We are bigger now than before, with contracts Gordon's influence can no longer touch. The medical complex that had canceled our contract during Gordon Grandpa was a criminal hiding behind his money. Jason changed his major from business to criminal justice, inspired by Agent Sinclair in the investigation. I want to catch the Gordon Blakes of the world, Dad. He told me the ones who think they are untouchable because they wear expensive suits and belong to the right clubs. Linda and I did not reconcile. Too much damage had been done. Too many cruel words spoken. Too much trust shattered. But we found a way to be civil for our kid's sake. She admitted her father had been feeding her lies for years, slowly poisoning her against me like arsenic in small doses. He made me believe I deserved better, she said during our final conversation about the marriage. He convinced me that your lack of ambition was holding me back. but Mark, what I had with you was already better than anything his world could offer. I traded real love for fool's gold. She sold the house and moved to a small apartment in Sparks, working to rebuild her real estate career without her father's connections. The last I heard, she was doing well, focusing on helping young families find their first homes instead of chasing luxury listings. Officer Ramirez and I became unlikely friends. We meet for beer once a month at a sports bar downtown. "You know, Mr. Ellison," he said one evening that night, "I pulled you over. I almost did not run your license." Something told me to check. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was something else. That something else might have been Uncle Frank watching over me. I will never know for sure, but I like to think he was waiting all those years for the right moment for justice to finally come calling. He died protecting America from enemies hidden in plain sight, and 39 years later, his nephew finished the job. I still drive trucks, still work with my hands, still come home covered in honest dirt. But now I know the truth. Gordon Blake did not try to destroy me because I was not good enough. He tried to destroy me because he feared I might be exactly good enough to expose what his family really was. The landscaper he mocked for playing in dirt had been sitting on top of buried treasure all along. The kind that could bring down kingdoms built on lies. My story is not about revenge or even justice, really. It is about truth, having patience, about how secrets buried in the desert have a way of surfacing when the time is right. It is about understanding that sometimes the people who tell you you are not good enough are really just terrified that you might be better than them in every way that matters. The men who maintain the lawns, who build with their hands, who earn their calluses and wear their sweat with pride, we are the backbone of this country. And sometimes we are also the ones who end up keeping America clean in ways nobody expects. If you found value in this story, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that their worth is not measured by someone else's standards. Drop a comment below about a time when someone underestimated you. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories of ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. Thank you for listening, and remember, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see your